the Lions is made for creating those opportunities because you've got the best of the best. And yet, there was no George North picking up Folau or running in from halfway. There was no Brian O'Driscoll running from halfway. There was no Jerry Guscott drop. There was nothing.
Crouch, bind, set.
Joe presents The House of Rugby, powered by Vodafone.
Well, it's happened again. Morné Steyn kicks the box to victory. 12 years on, same thing again, Seánie. How are you? Where did you watch it? Have you sobered up? Been a big weekend for you, isn't it?
Have I sobered up? Well, that's an awful question. I watched the game actually in London Irish.
Well, you were calling me on Friday night.
Yeah, we had a bit of a social.
And then Saturday you had a bit of a day.
No, we had a social on Friday night. Actually, forwards and backs split up, and we enjoyed a bit of food and a few beers together, which was nice for the first time in probably 2.5 years that we were allowed out together. And then Saturday, I watched the game in the club, which was a good atmosphere. I think there was about 100 people at an event there, and some Springbok fans and a lot of Lions fans. But it wasn't our day, unfortunately.
Well, I should say hello and welcome to House of Rugby, powered by Vodafone. And congratulations to the Springboks, that's for sure. Were they the worthy winners on the balance of things?
Yeah, I think they were, to be fair. I think if you look at the tour overall and what they kind of brought to the game with a lot of distractions and bits and pieces beforehand, they've done well to win the tour, and they've dug in deep. And went to that place to put themselves in a position to win it. But yeah, I think yesterday, the second half performance again, they kind of squeezed us a little bit, and they just do simple things really well at times when the big moments come as well. Overall I think they probably deserve it. Good for the lads. You can see how disappointed they were afterwards. Played some nice rugby at times, I thought, yesterday. But overall, probably, if we played like that more often, I suppose, over the tour.
Do you think it was better after the first two tests? Perhaps quite turgid. That was a bit more open, saw a bit more ball movement.
Yeah, it was just moving them around a little bit, wasn't it? And we were keeping the ball a lot more, like we'd hoped to see during the week. So it was definitely a lot more exciting. Rugby at a certain stage, and I know, like, having Finn on, he kind of does his own thing and pulls the strings a little bit, but it just looked like our shape and the way we were trying to run the ball was good.
Well, it's enough about that, because we've got a busy show today, Seánie. We're joined by Lions legend Matt Dawson later, but right now we're lucky to have Springbok Bobby Skinstad. Bobby, you must be a happy Springbok, that's for sure.
Happier than I was nervous, guys. Yes, I'm happy now that the series is over. I'm not sure that I can over celebrate, because a squeaky 3-point win is not something you can boast about. But delighted for the team that they came through.
But how big is that win? Any win's a good win, but how big is that for South Africa?
I mean, it's obviously contextually, and we've all spoken about it. There's so many other things that rugby affects in our country. So it's huge in that context. But also, I think this Lions side were a really strong team. I think they had good leadership, good coaching. I think, they were well prepared, and with everything else around it, COVID and a million other things we've got to mention every time. I think winning this one is something that the South Africans will be really pleased about, really proud of. And in that frame, it's very big, as a country and as a rugby playing nation.
Yeah, there's probably been a lot, I suppose, from our side about the Lions and where they fell short. But do you reckon, Bob, it's a lot more credit should go to the Springboks for the way they turned things around and got the show back on the road, really? Look,
I think Seánie, if you talk about it in the 3 games, then yes, because the first game they had a great start and then they fell off, and then the second game they got better. But in terms of the whole series, I think the Lions will be ruining the fact that they made some mistakes. I mean, that became the Lions' game to win, and they at 2 crucial big decision-making parts of that game, they were unable to knock it over, and I think South Africa, and what I mean by that is all credit to the Lions for being in that situation, but then all credit to South Africa for soaking up that pressure and being able to, one, score an incredible try. Isn't Colby just amazing? But, to create the penalty situations, to drive the Lions back when they were close to the line, etc. I think it's one of those ones where one team will say missed opportunities and one team will say taken opportunities.
And is it a case for South Africa of just give Colby the ball and let him score? I mean, he didn't touch it enough probably from a Springbok perspective, and the Lions will be pretty happy he didn't touch it too often. No,
well, I think you're right. Had he had more ball in space, he would have been more dangerous. But that's the beauty about a player like that. You get one opportunity over 3 tests, and he turns it into a try-scoring one. So amazing to have him in the team. It looked like a replay of what he's done before. I don't know how many medals he's got over his shoulders in the last 2 years, but certainly he must be one of the most highly decorated players in world rugby.
Yeah, he's touch of class, isn't he? Bob, do you think the Springboks will be happy with where their game is at the minute going forward? Moving out of this series into the Rugby Championship? No,
I think they'll be worried. I think they'll be worried about personnel. How many people are injured? How many people can last the season? It was so funny. I was chatting to a friend of mine. I went for a walk this morning. Obviously, anyone South African who sees me, wants a bit of a chat about the rugby, not to ask my opinion, but to tell me theirs, which is always good. And he was like, I had no idea we were playing Argentina next week. I said, well, exactly. That's the point. It never, ever stops, So they've got Argentina in the 2 following consecutive weekends, and they've got 4 players who quite possibly could be out with injuries, entirely out of this squad. So, we'll get an injury update. They won't be happy because I think they don't have sufficient replacements for people like Pieter-Steph du Toit. Faf de Klerk, I don't know how long that is. I thought Reinach was okay. I thought he sort of held the position. In fact, I thought Yankees was better. But I mean, we're thin on the ground, Seánie, and we've got a rugby championship to play because Argentina will batter us in the tight 5, and then all you've got after that is Australia and New Zealand.
But I guess considering the preparation the Springboks had and having no games for so long and then some of the games being cancelled, the warm-up, it must be relief and also happiness for them to come through and win the series.
No, it is. It's great relief, great joy. It's a great privilege to be part of any winning team. Oh, look, it's a great privilege to be part of any team in world sport. And I think this team are humble enough to know that just being part of the series, I loved Siya Kolisi's comments at the end of the game were about, if these games can motivate people to play the game, it doesn't matter where you are, what color you are, what gender you are, what country you're from, play the game, enjoy the game. And this team actually believes in that. They believe that there's a higher calling to what they do, and that will form some of the joy that they will experience around this, definitely.
And for you, Bobby, who are the standout performers for the Springboks and your player of the series?
I think in the final test, to start with that, I think Etzebeth and Kolisi were amazing in terms of the forward play. Pollard, unfortunately, he wasn't 100% dead on, but I think with the kicking boot. But I think let's say Morné Steyn supplemented that with the penalties that they needed, and his tactical game, strategically when to pass, when to kick, when to make sure that the people around him were carrying it up, was very good. So I would say of the backs, Pollard, Colby's your pocket dynamite who comes in every time. But my man of the series here is Captain Fantastic, Siya Kolisi. He, again, in the final test, made more tackles and contributions than any other player in the park. And people are like, but what does he do? And, when you break it down, and Sean will tell you this, the guys who are assisting on the tackle, assisting on the clean out, assisting on the go forward, assisting on the momentum, they're working for 80 minutes. It's not just, 1 or 2 things every 10, 12 minutes or whatever. It's every ruck, every contribution. So well done to Siya Kolisi for being a leader off the field as well as on the field.
Yeah, I thought he was class yesterday. I also thought Delande was incredible yesterday. Right. I thought he really, really stood up, physical all day long. Gave the box that go forward when they needed it a little bit. So I think he was incredible yesterday too. But you talk about Kolisi and a few of the boys. I thought the Springboks yesterday were so focused, a few of them, on doing the real dirty work. Those hard yards in tight and stuff, and he definitely led from the front. And he's an incredible player. I think he's after getting fitter, I suppose, more match fit as the series went on, obviously, as well, and you've started to see him come back into himself a little bit, into form. So he'll be exciting, I think, in the next few games for him as well.
I think so. I think he's getting fitter. He's getting stronger. I actually think he's in better nick than he was in the World Cup final. I literally think he's making more contributions. He's maybe learning, each week. He's talking to the referee in a more measured way. He's going through this leadership process, and that's important. I think if you're going to try and knock over New Zealand in New Zealand and Australia in Australia, everything he would have learned this series will contribute to that. So I've got to take my hat off, because at the end of the 2019 World Cup, you would have thought to yourself, well, if that's your pinnacle, it's not that bad. If he gets better, fantastic for rugby and for him.
And Bob, just before we finish, how sad is it, obviously, having no fans there? Just what it means, rugby in South Africa, and for the players to have no fans to celebrate with, and for the supporters not to be there and be part of that victory.
Look, it's a huge part of rugby. And I think the one thing you've got to remember is that the travelling fan are like the 16th man or 24th man or whatever you want to call it, the extra man in your team. I love the concept of Lions. I love what Lions means. For example, I said to my son on text message this morning, we are going to support the Lions in Australia in 4 years' time, because if COVID's got out the way, that is what rugby's about. That's what rugby should be like. And we missed that in South Africa. And South Africa's got a 12-year wait to have that back. But you know what? I think everybody involved in this game really tried to make the best of this that they could. And hats off to them, and thank you to all of them for doing that. But we missed those fans. We missed the 30-odd thousand baying Lions supporters, telling the Springboks what they're good at and what they're bad at and everything in between, making friends, downing pints. I'm probably only glad I've got a less of a headache than if we'd won in South Africa, and we'd all been on tour together.
Well, Bobby, we appreciate that. I will be there in Australia with you, and if we can get enough money, we'll get Seánie out there as well. But I'm not sure there's enough gold in the world. But thanks for joining us. Congratulations, and we look forward to speaking to you soon. Back to the test. What were your thoughts on it?
I thought we had a bright start, to be fair. And I thought then when Finn came on, I just thought we started to be a bit more of a threat and looked a lot more.
Did you notice a big difference, do you think? Really, from your eye, just thinking their defence held off a bit more, it was just a bit more creativity?
Yeah, he was keeping them guessing a little bit. Even the time with the kick pass, he was right at the line when he done that. And I think the Springboks just had come up, left it a bit of a dog leg, and he kind of went into that space and kick passed it across. So they had to keep an eye on him. And then those little inside passes taken on the line, I thought just he brought a little bit more energy, and he was a lot more dangerous just with the ball in his hands.
I certainly did. I thought what he did really well was he was giving the ball to the forwards, but when they were going into one-on-one tackles or weak shoulders, all tour or in the test series, we've seen them been running into brick walls, 2-man tackles, 3-man tackles. It's quite obvious. His little bit of deception, maverick nature, you're unsure what he's going to do, just meant that some of the forwards were coming on shoulder balls, they were coming in, longer passes, the kick passes you said. It just put the South African defence on notice, and I felt they lost a little bit of their line speed because the Lions were on the front foot, getting quick ball, and were able to play then. So I thought he was very good. I think we mentioned that his kicking was a bit erratic in terms of his punting, but that's what you get with him. He was so good in attack in that sense. But
yeah, it's a catch-22 when you have him playing, because you know he's going to create opportunities during the game, but you also know on the flip side of that he could give the opposition an opportunity as well with maybe a poor kick or a loose pass or a big pass. But it's risk reward, I think, and I'd certainly hate to be playing against him, because he has that ability to take you on. He has that ability to sit you down, and as a forward, you don't really want that. You want to be comfortable. You want to be going forward all the time. So it's I thought he just lit up the game a little bit in the way he was playing.
And do you think the Lions would just be very disappointed? Like there was a test match that they could have won so easily, and that just got away from them, and they'll live to regret that.
Yeah, well, we had opportunities, didn't we? That's the other thing. Even though we had flashes of this, I suppose, more expansive plan this week, and played a little bit more and took a few chances. Like we did create a few opportunities, and we just didn't take them. And again, we had a lot of penalties that we probably could have kicked for the sticks once or twice in that kind of third quarter of the game, where it was just getting a little bit too close for comfort, and it was kind of tit for tat. So there was opportunities, and we'll look back and probably when lads settle now and get off the beer in the next 24 hours, certainly a lot of them will review that whole game and look back, and it'll probably a little bit of regret there, I think.
No, firmly, I think there's some great opportunities, and any Lions tour to be that close and to miss out will be devastating for them. But there were 6 changes, and then 7 if you count Russell in the first 10 minutes coming on. How did those guys go? The changes work?
Yeah, I think they did. I think Wyn Jones is brilliant in the front row yesterday. Really kind of steadied the whole thing up. And plus he hadn't played obviously the 2 weeks before, so it was good to see him locking it down. I thought Ali Price was busy. I thought when Finn did come on, I thought he got busier. I think he knew. It's funny how a 9 might know, right, I'm playing with this fella now, I need to up the pace of it here, because he's going to want the ball as quickly as possible into his hands.
I think it goes back to what we talked about in the last show, though, is that combination. Why I was saying Ali Price should come off the bench with Finn. As it worked out, they were on at the same time, but they know each other so well. It was Henshaw was great again, and Bundy Aki had a solid game because they know each other. They know how each other moves, how they want to hit lines, how they want to get on the front foot, etc. And that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And again, even the high ball threats. How much better were we aerially this week? Liam Williams, Josh Adams know each other well.
Yeah.
They dealt with it really well. So for me, the combinations were really good.
Yeah, it was definitely a better performance by all in all those areas that we kind of lost the last few weeks. I thought Liam Williams was brilliant in the air yesterday. There was a few phenomenal catches over his head. There's obviously that 2-on-1 he had, which is he'll probably look back and go, why didn't I throw that pass? That was probably one major opportunity the Lions would have had. And then I thought Bundy and Robbie were brilliant in the centres yesterday, to be fair. And looking back as well, I don't really know why he hadn't tried that before now, because they played that Japan game together. I think Bundy had 4 or 5 turnovers that day as well, and they were rock solid. But obviously given other lads and different combinations opportunities. But I don't know, I think the selection part yesterday he probably got it right, but it could have been one game too late.
Yeah, got it right, but unfortunately it wasn't the result. Liam Williams, ex-scaffolder he used to be, he's got the biggest hands in the world. So when he's shouting defuse, which he always shouts in the game anyways, defuse, he's up in the air with these massive hands. But he's also as tough as they come, as we know. So
yes.
Fair play to him. Do you think, I've asked this already, but you think if Finn Russell had played the whole series, could have been different?
It could have been different, yeah. Definitely. But I suppose, again... You talk about lads having a bit of time in that position and knowing week to week, especially your 10s, who are going to be your major drivers of what type of plan they're going out with, what way they want to play, what way they want to direct their forwards around the place. And I just think he brought it to a bit of a different level than we'd seen in the previous games. And that's just the way he plays the game, though. Like Bigger's different, Faz is different. So he was just more exciting, I thought, when he came on yesterday, and that threat at the line was major, I think, to punch little holes and dint the Springboks a little bit, and as you say, keep them under heels a little bit. They weren't coming off the line as hard, which is a massive strength of theirs, is their D. So if you have someone who's actually keeping them on the line, things are going to open up eventually.
I think he's just someone who he looks from the outside. Don't know him really well at all. He just gives zero shits, doesn't he? He just goes out there and he's going to do it his way, which actually I think with the attacking shape and structure not working for the Lions. And, I think Farrell, Bigger are very, very, very good 10s, unbelievable in their own way. But they probably will follow the structure a bit more. And Finn will just do what he sees, how he does it, whenever he wants to do it. And maybe that was the only way for the Lions, because they couldn't get on the front foot with any structure. They couldn't get any clarity in attack for me. And it was really lacking. And it took for him to come on, to, as I said earlier, to throw those little inside balls you mentioned, the shoulder balls, the kick passes, because that was the only way to break down the South African defence. And I think the biggest thing for me is the Lions scored 2 tries in 3 tests, and they'll be very disappointed with that. As a group, coaching group, where the attack didn't function, and that's the biggest question for me, is why it didn't function, because we never looked like stringing phases together and looking potent. We couldn't get front foot ball, we couldn't get momentum, couldn't get quick ball, and then off the back of that, I just think we need to be braver from set piece at times, and Finn sort of came on and just didn't seem to care about it.
No, but that's I think that's it in a nutshell. Just to be a bit braver. We didn't play much offline outs in terms of like breakouts or anything like that either. So we didn't show a whole lot of creativity there. It was more so of just catch, maul, try and break the seams all the time. So there's loads of things we can say now, obviously, that it's over, it's done with, that could have been better, but it's just disappointing for them that they didn't have a proper crack. And I think looking back at that second test, it is a missed opportunity, I think, to actually go out and express themselves a little bit more like they did yesterday. And if they'd played like that yesterday in all 3 tests, I think it would have been a different story.
Well, it's funny because obviously we're talking hindsight now. I did try and put on our House of Rugby WhatsApp group a little message for the game, just get predictions so we can, look here today and see what happened. I then put out again anything from you, Seánie. Clearly, I didn't put a bet down, or you sort of get a bite from you and put money on the table, because it was just tumbleweed. Absolutely no response. 24 hours later, still no response.
No,
so
I wasn't getting anything.
It's strictly admin on that group for you, is it, mate?
Strictly admin. I was busy watching the game.
Busy watching the game.
Yeah.
I think you were too busy sinking a few pints. But if I'd said, look, I bet you £1,000, you'd be straight onto it. Yeah, right. But
maybe not 1,000.
For the viewers listening, I was actually quite close. Actually, I said 21-18. I think
that wasn't bad, yeah.
And it was to the Springboks. So
yeah.
I pretty much as close as you're going to get with that one.
Springboks win, didn't you?
So now we're joined by Lions legend Matt Dawson. Daws, how are you? What have you been up to?
Yeah, very, very well, thank you, gents. I've not been drowning my sorrows, but I've been certainly been having a few Sunday beers. As you should after 24. What did the Wasp boys do? Win or lose on the booze? That was the expression.
Yeah, that's, I think that's pretty common in rugby in all practices.
I think that's what the boys are at now anyway, by the looks of their social media the last 12 hours. So I'd say they're getting stuck into beers on the way home on the flight too.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the first time they're probably be able to let loose, even if it is in the hotel. But just getting stuck into the game, what did you make of it on Saturday?
I don't think Saturday was where they lost it, really, was it? It was last weekend not firing a shot, particularly in that second half. That was their chance. And, excuse me, having had the experience of being there back in 01, where they're going to reflect on that thing. That was ours for the taking. They'll probably look at second test. They'll look at third test with going for the corners too many times, getting carried away with the fact that they scored one try with Ken Owens and going it again and again and again. And unfortunately, just at that level with everything on the line, whether it's, the latter stages of a World Cup or a series decider in a Lions tour, you've got to apply pressure through points. And for me, that was the crux of it, was they needed to build the score. And yes, I get the momentum piece, but at that level, they've got to take 3. They've got to make it 6. They've got to make it 9. The opposition change their mindset. The referee changes their mindset, and it creates a completely different, a completely different mindset for the opposition. So yeah, I'm disappointed, boys, to be honest, because they'll be absolutely gutted. It was a great Lions tour for them, for the new ones to be on, and they had plenty of adversity. But unfortunately, they are going to look back on that in 20 odd years, and it'll be the one that they say to their friends, "Oh yeah, I was on that trip in 2021 in South Africa. We should have won it." I spend every single conversation I have about 2001, it will open up with, "Bloody hell, that's the one we should have won." So it will prey on them for many years.
Do you think, Dawes, it came down to a bit of selection maybe on the second test? Because I agree with you totally. Obviously, they never fired a shot. Bench come on, didn't really make an impact. Like we seen yesterday when Finn came on the field, just started opening up a little bit, and he was pulling a few tricks out here and there, and kicked a little bit loosely at times, mind you, but at least we were having a cut. But it was nearly like yesterday we're told, right, let's go after everything. So as you said, we didn't build a lead enough during the game. We were just kicking, we were trying to have a crack all the time into the corners. So do you think that's down to selection, maybe the second test, and then leading into yesterday as well?
I think actually that I wasn't convinced about the selection for the first test, because I think it gave that impression of how we were going to play, and certainly within that, the changes that they made in that second test, everybody knew how the Lions were going to play, building on that sort of second half performance of the first test. And we can play some rugby. Ireland, Scotland, Wales, England have shown when they throw it right at the opposition. I don't mean it being all willy-nilly. When they need to play, they could play. Finn Russell was magnificent yesterday, and he is a proper big-time test match player. You give him big games and you surround him with the talent, and what better example is there than the Lions? There isn't. And you could see that interview after he did when they finished the game. There was a realization in his mind. Yeah, I'm going to be there in 4 years' time. Don't you worry about that, boys. That is my target. I'm getting on the Lions tour. People know I can play. I think that sort of childish, maverick, laissez-faire attitude that maybe he's had over the last 2 or 3 years, which has got him in a little bit of trouble. I think this tour has smacked him in the face and said, I am genuinely good enough to be a superstar at this level, and I think he'll turn into one of the greats from now on after that. I think, and there were other players on that trip as well. I just wanted to see more of it. Yeah. It was a real shame.
With that, Dawes, Gregor Townsend well. You played with him. You know how good he was with ball in hand. Do you think he'll be disappointed that he couldn't implement his sort of attacking ways to the squad, and it took for Finn Russell to come on, who is a bit of a maverick and someone who sort of did create things on his own, but the structure and attack was lacking throughout the tour?
What's wrong with me? Maybe it's that couple of beers I've had. I was just surprised that the Lions played like that. I mean, you've got Gregor Townsend, who was known for his attacking theory and methodology as a player, and yet really in the first 2 tests you knew how they were going to play. No one really took it to them, to South Africa, and physically of course we did. We had to, but playing Stuart Hogg, playing Van der Merwe, the Chris Harris piece, it just didn't make any sense to me. I get it. You've got to be physical and you've got to match them, South Africa, physically. I get that. But also they had to have the guile. They had to have the the finesse and the skills and the brilliance to then create the opportunities. In the whole of these three series, boys, 3 matches, there was not one Lions moment. Not one. There was no George North picking up Folau or running in from halfway. There was no Brian O'Driscoll running from halfway. There was no Seánie try from a Liam Williams break. There was no Jerry Guscott drop. There was nothing. There was no, Ian Evans try in 89. There was nothing. And the Lions is made for creating those opportunities because you've got the best of the best, and yet it was frustrating for 2 matches to watch the Lions play in a way that is good enough to win games, but is not a way that those brilliant players can necessarily express themselves. So I think potentially Gregor will have some thoughts about maybe he could have done things slightly different, I guess.
I think from my side, I just wish they'd been a bit braver at times, as you said. Just try and move the ball from a scrum and go wide. Give it to your wingers or your fullback in a bit of space. Let them run at them, not just be conservative and try and smash Henshaw up or Aki every single time. And I think that would have helped them get on the front foot and therefore allow them then to try and move it after that. And I guess, the selection of people like Simmons, Conan, Falatau, number 8s, mobile players they wanted out there, we never saw that. And I guess the question for you really is, should they have then picked people like Billy Vunipola or taken a Johnny Sexton, who are perhaps not as maverick players or as good in the wider channel, but would have done a job with the tactics they were employed?
Yeah, I guess if you are going to play that style of rugby, you as was proven in that 3rd Test match, where the pressure is at the max, it doesn't get any bigger than that. There were, what we're going to say, 5, 6, 7 opportunities and moments where there needed absolute clarity in the decisions that there needed to be made. Some of them on the hoof, some of them around penalties or going to line outs or momentum in the game. And the Lions generally didn't make a lot of good decisions when they really needed to. So, potentially there is an argument that if you are going to play that type of rugby, then you do need maybe a more strategic team. But in the same breath, I think those players that went on that tour were full of threatening capabilities. And I take your point about the midfield maybe, but you had someone like an Ali Price who week in, week out, when he's playing for his club and he's playing for his country, is a threat. He is hitting fringes, he's hitting short sides, he's bringing players on. You have to keep your eye on him.
Yeah.
And as Sean would know, if he has to look after the scrum half, if he's worried about the scrum half, he can't quite get out to the fly half as quick as he wants to be. So it just gives you that little edge. But it was all very, very predictable with players that were not used to being predictable. And I think that's where maybe the slight confusion came about.
Yeah, I think it's probably something, we speak about Gregor and his influence on the attack side of it, but I wonder, like, when the coaches sit down as a group, how much he'll, let's say Gats will allow him to take complete control of that area or complete control of attack shape, or is it a discussion amongst the coaches saying, right, look, we're going to play this way, first test, feel them out, see what's happening. So I'd love to be a fly on the wall in some of those meetings and see how much he actually let him off the leash to let him own it themselves in each area, attack, D, etc. So I think that had a part to play in it too, because I think yesterday at times was the first time we've seen any bit of like inventiveness at all, out the back a few times, Finn taking on the line, little inside balls, and it looked dangerous and it was exciting to see. But we didn't fire a shot, as you've said, Dawson, the second test. First test, okay, it was a little bit different of a game, but we needed to go out and try and play a little bit, and we just didn't do enough for during the tour, I think.
Because Finn, every time Finn Russell got the ball yesterday, you could see the South Africans, they couldn't move off him. They couldn't second guess where the ball was going to go. They were They were up and in defence. They were up and out at defence. They were worried about the chip through, the grubbers, the ball over the top, the little offload, inside, outside. He's looking one way, he's passing the other. We all know what it's like when you're defending against a player like that. You can't commit. You can't overcommit because you're going to get absolutely taken to the cleaners. And that then creates a little bit of momentum for a Courtney Laws or a Mako when he came on, or any of those Lions players to get, run through a branch rather than the trunk. And there's a like a knock-on effect of all of this going on throughout the game. So then you get to the last 10 or 15 minutes and South Africa should have been chasing shadows and Lions should have come into their own. But, I'll go back to the very first point. If you're 10-6 up, I'll tell you what, boys, let's just make it 13-6 and we'll go to 16-6. And South Africa, what are you going to do about that? And the game shifts massively under that pressure, so that with 10, 15 minutes to go and the likes of Conor Murray and others come on, they can start shutting the game down. But it turned into an arm wrestle to the death. And I think that's what we were all concerned about at the very beginning of this tour. If you're getting into an arm wrestle with South Africa, you're going to be up against it.
So for you, was it more the decision making in terms of penalties or going to the corner, or the fact that we as Lions only scored 2 tries in 3 games that cost them ultimately? Because as a player playing against Finn as a fullback, he's a nightmare for me because you're worried about the chip, as you said, the cross field, the kick long, all his tricks. But we scored 2 tries in 3 games.
Yeah, well, it wasn't enough, was it? There is, you guys are sitting there pre-tour talking about where's the result going to go. If someone's going to say to you the Lions are only going to score two tries, you're saying South Africa are winning that series all day long. It's not enough to win a test series for the Lions. So yeah, it certainly needed to be addressed. I just want, in 4 years' time, when it's Australia, I suppose things will be slightly different because of the way the Australians play, but we've got to remember that we're bloody good. We have got some unbelievable talent. I mean, I seem to remember, Seánie was playing in it, but I seem to remember 4 years ago, there was a little bit of a battle up front in the first test. It wasn't really until it felt like watching it that the Lions had a word to themselves to say, do you know what, fellas, we're not going to win this battling each other up front. We got to start counter-attacking. We've got to start playing a bit from deep. We've got to throw a bit of caution to the wind and show our skills. And the Lions are in the fight, are in the game. And I just wish that they'd had that mentality. I don't know. Do you know what I was talking this morning and doing a feature this morning about whether they had the egos to do that in the squad this year round, whether they had those players that were prepared to put their head above the parapet a little bit and say, do you know what, this is not working, let's do something else. I mean, you guys are closer to it than I, but sometimes, those egos, that little bit of controversy actually is needed within the side.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Doss, because I do know from previous tours, the likes of a Johnny Sexton, I'm just taking him for an example here, he would stick his head above the parapet and voice his opinions on where we should be going after games and what we should be doing. And the same with Faz, to be fair. But obviously Johnny wasn't out there, but Faz would have been someone I thought in that big test arena would be someone who could direct the team around a little bit more and stuff like that. So for him to miss out was obviously massive, but I think he probably didn't. This is me just guessing. I think he probably didn't have as much of influence on this tour in terms of the way we went about our attack than he did probably previously, because he did drive a lot of stuff in the previous 2 tours that I was on with him. So maybe those players aren't there or didn't speak up maybe when they needed to.
Maybe that's the way that the game's going, boys. But yeah, I don't know. Is it being not necessarily coached out of it, but is that not necessarily going to be the future of, or the next generation of rugby player, where they are going to sit outside of and think outside the box a little bit more and and be able to control a game from the field. It was absolutely rife back in my day, all those decades ago, where you would regularly go onto a field and within 10 minutes be, boys, whatever we've been doing in the week is not going to work today. We need to completely shift on what we're doing and go into and you get messages on from the coaches about, do this, do that, do the other. And we're like, that ain't going to work today. I'm sorry. We can feel it on the pitch. That's not going to work. We're going in a certain direction. I'm not convinced that's necessarily where rugby players' minds are these days.
I think it's a bigger debate, which we'll have to go into another day. But I certainly can only speak. If you're a player, though, with all the tinkering around with the selection, if you know you're going to play every week, like Sexton did in 2013, he was a starting 10. And then, 2017, you had Sexton and Owen. They knew they were going to play. They can have more of an influence. I think if you don't have that control, you're not sure you're in, you're out, you're off the team, you're in the bench, it's much harder to have that say with how the way the team plays, the tactics, the structure and attack. So I think that's probably been a bit more tricky, the 9 and 10 swapping around so much. But we'll let you get back to your nice walk down the river. And thanks for joining us, Dawson.
Thanks, Dawson.
Boys, good stuff.
I must say, it looked pretty nice there in the background to Dawson. Maybe you shouldn't get back to the pub, but we'd go for a pint. Shawnee, fancy it?
No.
Super. That's a good relationship we have there, Shawnee. Strictly business, is it, between us? We do get on really well, actually. Yeah, of course we do. Yeah, cheers, Shawnee. Ignoring my WhatsApps.
You think we do?
Yeah, great. Ignoring my WhatsApps and now just straight up saying no to me. But anyways, we'll move on. We've now got to select our combined Lions 15. Bit of fun, just who's played in this test series. So starting at 1. Quite a few players have played. Shawnee, who are you going for? Obviously, Wyn Jones, Mako, Kitsoff, Sutherland.
Yes. I'm gonna go with
Seánie.
I'm gonna go with Stephen Kitsoff.
Really?
Yeah.
Any reason?
Just
because you can't pronounce your name.
Rock solid. I thought in everything he does. And looks to carry a lot of ball.
Good decision.
Yeah.
Okay, hookers, Ken Owens, Malcolm Marks, Karen Dickey, Bongi.
Well, I'm going to go with the Sheriff on this one.
Really? Only started one game?
Yeah, but still, I just know what he's about. Good, great fella to have on the field. I think Karen Dickey had a great tour, to be fair.
I think
Malcolm Marks. Yeah.
I think Bongi, for me, he's played in a winning team. The scrum's been good for South Africa. It came through at the end. So
he's a bit of an animal too, to be fair to him.
Yeah, he's been good. At tight head, I think we know where you're going to go with this.
There's only
Matt Herber, Sinclair or Furlong.
Yeah, you're going Furlong. He's
yeah.
Complete package.
Second rows. Now I'll just give you the list. Obviously, Alan Wyn Jones, Lou Diaga, Maro Toji, Etzebeth and Mostert.
Yeah, it's...
For me, I think Etzebeth and Maro.
Not a bad 5 players, are they?
Yeah, I mean, they're all very, very good, but I'd go Etzebeth and Maro Toji for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with you.
Going at each other,
to be fair.
Going at each other all tour, and I just think, Maro for me is a standout player, and Etzebeth really came through.
Yeah, he was very good yesterday.
Yeah.
Very good.
Back row, at 6, I think do it slightly different. Obviously, Khaleesi plays 6 South Africa, but we'll just do blind side, which is more there. Peter Steph Toy, Mostert, or Courtney Laws are the options at blind side.
I'm going to go with Peter Steph actually at 6.
I think you've lost the plot.
No.
He played one game and then came off in the second test.
Yeah. I haven't lost the plot though. He's world player. He is.
I don't think he was at his best. I thought he's very, very good. But for me, I'll go Courtney Laws because he played all 3 games. He only came off. He played so many minutes. Very good in the first test. Good in the third test.
Right. I'll agree with you then on Courtney because of he's played most of the games here in this series. But if I was picking a back row going forward...
Yeah, no, I understand that. But this series we're talking about...
Okay, so we're agreed on that.
Khaleesi or Curry or Watson, I guess.
I'm going to go Khaleesi. I think he was phenomenal yesterday.
I agree with that.
I think he's coming back into his own again, putting his own stamp on the games, doing a lot of dirty work, showing up for the full 80 minutes. He doesn't really go in and out of games, so I thought he was outstanding.
I thought he was very good, and he got better and better as the series went on.
Yeah.
Massive moment for me in that second test when he got his hand under Henshaw. I thought it was a phenomenal tackle, and he just got better and better, and he did a lot of the unsung work, as you said, and really, ultimately he was a winning captain who led them through a tough time and came back. Number 8, you got Jasper Wiese,
Jack
Conan or Quagga Smith.
I'm going to go with Jack Conan, to be honest, just because I suppose firstly leading into the tour probably wasn't many people's pick to be actually start number 8. It was probably going to be Toby Faletau that people just would have known a little bit more about, but I think Jack Conan's had a phenomenal tour. I think he's really come into his own. I thought he was busier yesterday than he even was in the first 2 tests before he was taken off, but he showed up. He showed up both sides of the ball in attack, and grew in confidence. I thought it was phenomenal this tour.
No, I agree. I thought he played very well. And then also it'd be nice if you could get him on the show, as everyone you seem to text doesn't come on the show, from Rob Carney to Brian O'Driscoll.
We'll have a look.
Ronan Nagara, just to name a few. Johnny Sexton, who have all pied you. Anyways, number 9, obviously Ryan Ark, Faf de Klerk, Ali Price, Connor Murray. Who are you going for? I think.
Who are you going for?
I am going to go for.
You can play 10 or 15. So who would you like serving you the ball?
I was going to say Faf. I think I'll go Ali Price because he surprised me and has probably surprised a few people, I think, in terms of how well he's played. And I think Faf de Klerk is so important to South Africa, but just the fact that he didn't play the final test for me means I'll go Ali Price. And then 10, I will go Andre Pollard.
Bigger or Russell?
With Bigger, Russell, other options, Mornay Stain. For me, Pollard hasn't been at his best, far from it, but I think he's still been the winning 10 who's brought them home, really. So that's it for me.
Okay. 12?
12, 13, Damien Delindi for me, but I would have Henshaw at 13. I think those two have been stand-up performers.
Definitely agree with that centre partnership, for sure.
I think, obviously, Elliot Daly, Chris Harris, one game and then moved out, which not easy. Lucania Am even is very important defensively. I think he was very good for the Springboks and he's very important for them, but didn't see a lot of him ball in hand. But both Delinde and Henshaw were very good in attack.
Yeah, brilliant.
Wingers? Back 3 for you. I know you like to talk about your favourite place, the back 3. At fullback options are Liam Williams, Willie LaRue, Stuart Hogg. Wingers, obviously, Mpimpi, Duhan van der Merwe, Colby, Adams and Watson. Who are you picking from that list?
I'd actually bring Colby on one wing, and I would put I'd actually put Anthony Watson under the wing, even though he didn't play. But again, going forward, we didn't see much of Josh Adams, obviously, in the tests.
Do you think Duhan played better the weekend? It's some good.
I think he played better, because he was more involved. They got the ball to the edge to him a little bit more. He went looking for work a little bit, so he did play well. So I'd still probably pick Cheslin and Anthony Watson.
Fullback? Who are you going for?
Liam Williams. I'm going Liam Williams, and I think looking back now, if we had him in that second test, he might have been the difference in terms of getting a few balls back, etc. So he is phenomenal in the air. I know that when you look back on yesterday, that 2v1 is going to pop up a lot probably in the next while, but he's a class player.
I agree in terms of Cheslin Colby for me. Other wingers, I thought Duhan came through well, considering he took a lot of criticism, played all 3 tests.
Yeah.
I'll let you have your Anthony Watson. At fullback, though, I would say Willie LaRue, we didn't see what he does in attack, but I would pick him because he's played all 3 tests, but mainly because he's so important to South Africa's kicking game. Like he does so much kicking for them, so much organising. We haven't seen him at his best, but one moment in the third test where he makes that break is there, and he passes to Colby. For me, Villy LaRue would be option. I think Liam Williams is phenomenal, but we've only really seen him in one test. Villy LaRue's kicking has been so important for South Africa and the way they've tried to strangle the Lions. So I would pick him. We can agree to disagree.
To be fair, I shouldn't be picking any of the backs here because I haven't a clue.
So there we have it. Your team is Stephen Kitsoff, Bongi, Furlong, Etzebeth, Itoje, Laws, Khaleesi, Conan in the forwards, Ali Price, Andre Pollard, Colby, Delinde, Henshaw, Watson and Villy LaRue. So Shawnee, there's our 15. Pretty decent team.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it would frighten a lot of other teams in the world. Yeah. So I think we've done okay there.
If we're coaching, we just get Colby the ball and give it to him again and again, and some magic will happen.
Wide pattern.
Yeah.
All day.
Strong. Well, Shawnee, how do you think the boys will cope with 2 weeks in Jersey now?
I think they'll be pretty okay in Jersey. I think
you reckon they want to get home, don't you think?
No, they do want to get home. But I think from what I know, I think a lot of their loved ones and families and wives and girlfriends and stuff are heading over there. I think the Irish lads they're allowed straight back in.
Oh, of course.
So that'll be nice.
No tax for you guys, and you're allowed straight back into your country back home. Eh?
They'll switch off and stay kind of. They'll chill out for the next few weeks, I think, most of them, because it is an intense tour, and it was probably more intense now because of COVID.
And do you think maybe as the last episode of the show, you might be able to get one of them on the phone, or any of them respond to your text? Or
I'll try my best over the next few days.
Yeah?
I'll try my best.
Your very, very best?
Well, I'm going to give it my very best, Goodie, for you.
That's kind of you, is you're ignoring
you're welcome.
Every text from me and any opportunity to have a beer with me. So that's all we've got time for on this week's House of Rugby, powered by Vodafone. Thank you for listening or watching. Cheers. Goodbye. Yeah. Thank you. Cheers.
You've been watching the House of Rugby, powered by Vodafone.